Good morning, welcome back. My name is Becky and today we have some really fun things to get to that we didn't get to last week. We are going to flip one of the garden beds out in the garden. It's gonna go from a garlic bed to a fall bed, and we've got a lot of fun things we're gonna be planting in that bed. But before we do that, I need to make some bread. I don't have any bread in the house right now, and so we need to go ahead and get this going while we go do a bunch of other projects outside. After we get the bed all put together, we're gonna take care of the garlic harvest. We need to braid it and put it up for winter use. So that was our yeast mixture, our water. I'm doubling this recipe so that I can actually do some projects with some of the sandwich bread a little bit later. So to the yeast, water, and sugar, I'm gonna go ahead and add my flour, salt, and butter. Normally I add oil, but I didn't feel like running downstairs to get a new jar of oil. I'm really looking forward to today's garlic project because we are gonna take the soft neck garlic varieties that we grew together and we're gonna braid them with some flowers and we're gonna make some beautiful garlic braids, or at least that's the goal. So I'm gonna mix this together. So one thing we're gonna be planting today that I've never done a fall planting of are potatoes. We have about 95 days from today until our first frost date. These are some potatoes that I got at my local farmer's market and then I never used them, so they're growing eyes. And so I'm not sure what variety exactly they are, so I don't know the grow time on them, but I would rather throw them in the ground since I have a place for them than just have them go bad on me. So what I'm gonna do with my bread though first real quick, this bread feels beautiful. I think I had some yeast that was getting old and my bread wasn't rising nicely. So I just got some new yeast and it's really making a big difference in my bread. So I'm just gonna take this, I'm actually gonna take the kneading attachment out. The nice thing I like about this mixer is that I just let the dough rise right in the bowl of the mixer. I don't worry about transferring it to another bowl. But I do like to kind of make it a little bit more even in here. So we're gonna get this on here. This is ready to go. Let's go outside and get our hands in the dirt, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm gonna pop this in the sink and I'm not gonna forget my coffee. We just got out of about a 2-week extreme heat wave for us. It was in the high 90s. Today, the high is supposed to be 75. It's overcast, so it's a perfect morning to come out here and get planting and get in the garden, get some things done, because it's supposed to pop back up into the mid 80s for this next week. I just love coming out here when it's early and when the sun is behind a cloud. We are gonna be harvesting some of these straw flowers to make some really hopefully beautiful garlic braids, which I haven't been able to do a garlic braid in 2 years because last year my garlic was so small it wasn't worth braiding. And the year before I didn't plant any soft neck garlic. So it's gonna be fun to do that. It's been a goal of mine for the last 2 years to make a beautiful garlic braid. This is the bed we're gonna be working with this morning. So I just set my timer for 1 hour so that I can go upstairs and we can work with our dough in an hour. And let's see if we can get this bed completely flipped in that amount of time. I think we can do it. So I have a ton of different seeds in here that I'm gonna plant. So we're not just gonna put potatoes in here, we're going to put all sorts of yummy fall crops. So I'm gonna first get the irrigation off this bed. Set it over there. This right here is the only bed that I had landscape fabric on left. And I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. I can already see some potatoes in here that were volunteers. Got some volunteer potatoes in here. There's the smallest little potato right there. I'm gonna go through and dig up these potato plants that I see. Yeah, they're really not much to them. That one. There it is. It's a little tiny potato. Oh, wow. These are some decent sized potatoes. Okay, I think that's it from that one plant. Ooh, that's a decent sized potato. Yes, these look fantastic. Oh my goodness. All right, we're gonna get enough potatoes for a decent meal for Josh and I, which is pretty awesome because this bed was dedicated to garlic. And so these are just 100% free potatoes. I didn't even have to buy the seed because they were just left in this bed from previous year. I had a bunch of these baby elephant garlics, and I'm just going to go ahead and randomly put these along the edge of this bed. If nothing happens, so be it. If we get a harvest, awesome. Elephant garlic puts on these little babies, and you can grow those into a pretty large garlic clove. And then the next year you can plant those and they'll give you a whole head. And I was thinking about putting them in my landscape, but I'm just gonna pop them there and we'll see what happens. So if next year I'm confused why there's garlic growing in this bed, that is why. But look at this cute little potato harvest. That is pretty decent for free potatoes. I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna dig up this patch of potatoes. These could die back and produce a few more potatoes that are larger. And if I dig them up, I'm totally going to ruin and disrupt my leeks. The leeks aren't gonna get very big because obviously these potatoes outcrowded them. I think what I'm gonna do is leave them because my dad is gonna come when we harvest our big potato patch, and my dad and I will harvest those together, and we'll leave that for when we harvest potatoes together. So now let's go ahead and get planting another crop of potatoes. I do plan to amend this bed with some soil amendments, but I think I'm gonna get the potatoes planted first, and I'll just top dress with the amendments and the soil, and then as the irrigation and as we get rain, we don't get very much rain around here in the summer, but as I irrigate it, the nutrients will kind of leak down into the soil. So these potatoes were grown organically. These are from a farm that's not too far from me that I got at the farmer's market. I actually bought my seed garlic that I planted from the same farm that I got these potatoes from. And these potatoes are wanting to be planted. They went a little too far. If there's the little tiny eyes on potatoes, I can go ahead and just peel those off. But these were a little too far gone to do that. So I thought I would try growing them. So we have, what did I say? I can't remember. I told you earlier, I think about 90 days until our first average frost date. That's pushing it a little close. I looked up fingerling potatoes online, and depending on the variety, they can have anywhere from an 80-day to 120-day growing time, and so we're pushing it a little close if this is a longer growing potato. But if it's not, we're gonna be perfect. And we might have a late frost, so that would help us too. So I think what I'm gonna do is put the potatoes here so that when we go to dig up those potatoes, we're not gonna disturb these potatoes. There we go, we got a couple more potatoes. Okay, so that got to right here on this bed, so that's gonna give me a good about 1/3 worth of this bed to plant with seeds. You know what I think I wanna do? I've changed my mind. I'm gonna put something else right here. Let's see, move these to here. I think what I'm gonna put right here are green beans. So all I'm gonna do for the green beans is put, let's see, I wanna give a good amount of space for them. Gonna dig a trench here. Jade green beans are my favorite, but I have these seed packets of Blue Lake bush beans, and I have one contender of, one packet of contender, and I want to use these up, so I'm going to go ahead and plant these. And then I'll probably just buy Jade seed next year. So I got 5 rows worth of beans planted here. The first time I ever planted a full crop of beans was not last year, but the year before. And those green beans did the best out of any green beans I've ever grown. And so I wanted to try doing that again this year. I planted them right after I harvested the garlic. They did great. It was the last growing season at my last house. So I just wanted to look at these green beans. So the Blue Lake bush beans say that they're a 54-day to harvest green bean. So that's perfect. So if you're wondering what I mean by last frost date or first frost date, when we're talking about planting in the summer to try to get a harvest for fall, we count backwards from when our average first frost date of the year is going to be. So I Googled my zip code and it gave me a date, which was November 9th. And then all I did was put into Google how many days from today, I just found another potato, to November 9th. And it gave me 90 something days. And so that's how I know that I should have enough time to plant these green beans and have them ready for harvest before frost comes and kills the plant. Now these potatoes might take longer, and so I'm not sure. This potato is kind of a gamble. The green beans shouldn't be a problem. So what I'm gonna do is extend my harvest season. My green beans I planted about a month and a half ago. Those are probably ready for me to harvest. I see tiny little green beans ready for me to harvest them in about a week. And those plants will eventually die off and be done. And so I won't have fresh green beans if I didn't plant a second planting. So I didn't plant a ridiculous amount of green beans my first planting because I knew I wanted to plant a second planting and I wanted to get an extended harvest. So now what I'm doing is digging about a 10-inch hole. I'm going to take my seed potato, or just my potato, plant it in the ground. And because these potatoes have eyes on them, I'm going to plant them with the eyes oriented up toward the sky. And I'm just eyeballing about 1 foot between each potato. And you know what? I think I might as well, since I have it out here. I left this out here last time we were out here. I'm going to put a little bit of soil amendments in each hole. A little bit of this stuff goes a long way. So I'm just going to take a little pinch. Oh, I just found another potato. So this is the last one going in. And then I'm going to put my little garden tool right here so I know, so that we can start planting some other things down in this part of the bed. Well, this will be fun to see how well this works. I've never done a second planting of potatoes. All right, I do want to amend this part of the bed where we put the green beans. So I'm going to take my soil amendments, and these I'm just going to sprinkle on top. My theory or my thought is that the green bean seeds are so much closer to the top of the soil that when these kind of release their nutrients as they get wet from the irrigation, it will have easy access to those green bean seeds versus the potatoes were planted about 10 inches or so deep. I thought I would just go ahead and put the amendments in with the potato. This is just me gardening intuitively. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put more seeds in the ground down there. My trowel was right about here. Mix that in. These are the seed packs that I brought out here. I've got spinach, kale, and carrots. I want to look at the days to maturity on these carrots, if it even says on here. 95, 70, 70, 65. I think I'm going to do the Chantney carrots that are a 70-day. That should give us plenty of time. I have found personally that carrots tend to take longer to grow than what the seed packet says if I want a good size carrot. And so since we have 90-ish days, that should be perfect. So these are not pelleted carrot seeds, so they're really small. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just do this whole section of carrots because I really haven't planted a ton of carrots yet this year. I have quite a few, but not a ton. And I can actually leave carrots in the ground for a while because we tend to not get our super hard frosts until usually late January, early February. And so I can store these carrots in the ground if I cover them with some mulch instead of harvesting them and bringing them inside. So maybe that's what I'll plan to do. So I'm just making trenches here. As long as the tops don't get frozen, then, like not the greens, but the top of the carrot, then they'll be fine. Even when I was planting different things throughout the rest of the garden, in areas I had carrots, I was finding carrots in the ground that still looked perfectly good to eat. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows here. I do not cover my carrots. A lot of people, when they plant carrots, they will actually take burlap or a board or something, cardboard, and cover them. I have planted carrots the way I'm going to show you here and that way, and I've had about the same success either way. So I'm just going to do it without putting anything on the top. Because these are not pelleted, I'm going to have to go through and thin them, which is fine, because I'll give that to the chickens when I thin them. So I found a few more of these elephant garlic babies, and so I'm just going to go ahead and stuff these in the ground randomly. I was planning to get a couple different varieties of things in this bed, but I am happy with having green beans, potatoes, and carrots because I've got a couple other areas that I can throw some seeds that I was expecting to put in this bed, but I don't happen to have those seeds with me, so I'm gonna have to go grab them. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, I just dug up a couple potatoes here because they were right on the surface from these plants. And this is pretty exciting. Look at the size of these ones. They're huge. Wow. So the skins, I can tell, definitely need to get a little bit stronger on those potatoes. So I'm going to leave the rest of them in the ground. But these were poking up out of the ground and they would turn green. And I don't want that to happen because then you don't really want to eat them because they can give you a tummy ache. Josh just came out here to inform me that my dough has expanded out of the mixer. So we need to go take care of that. And then it'll be perfect timing and I will go ahead. I need to get that bed watered in, which is what I was actually going to do, was grab the hose. But I think I need to take care of the dough first and then we'll come back out and we'll work on the garlic. Okay, this dough is definitely ready for the next step. I definitely think that the yeast I have been using for the past while is not good anymore because I know that if I was using my other yeast, it would not have risen this quickly because my 1 hour timer has not even gone off yet. So I'm glad to have some new yeast in the house. Okay, it smells so good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is take this big bowl of beautiful dough and get it onto this silt mat. I've got 4 bread pans out. Normally I only make 2 loaves at a time, but because I've got projects I want to do with 2 of the loaves, I'm making 4. With how quickly this dough is rising, I'm gonna go ahead and preheat the oven right now so that by the time probably this is preheated, we will be able to put that bread right into the oven. So now what I wanna do is get going on this garlic. We harvested this about a week ago, and the garlic that I'm gonna be braiding is this right here. This is a soft neck variety. And then on the other side there, I have another soft neck variety, but I wanna clean all of this up and get it ready for storage for fresh eating or until it's starting to show signs that it needs to be put up in a more permanent situation. I need to get these garlic bulbs, heads, I should say, yeah, bulbs, clean before I can store them and before I braid them. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut all the roots off. These have been drying for a week now, and they're not completely dry. You can still see a little bit of green in here, but I can finish the drying process with the stem cut off. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a stem, and I'm gonna put all the not edible parts inside this wheelbarrow so I can go dump it. I might end up just having to clean up. I should get some cleaner gloves on. These ones are kind of dirty from planting potatoes. So I'm just getting dirt on this. So let me go get some different gloves. Oh yeah, that's way better. It's actually better having gloves on to do this because the little bit of rubber on the gloves creates some friction and then we can get a beautiful garlic bulb. So let me show you up close what this is gonna look like. And then I'm gonna put my garlic bulbs into my basket. So pretty. So I might just have all this go onto the patio, and then I'll just clean my patio when I'm done. It might be faster if I can just sit here and do it. So what I'm doing is cleaning the roots up. And then I'm going to cut the stalk at about 1 inch. And then you can see I still have a little bit of dirty paper on the outside. I'm just going to take that dirty paper off. Cut the roots. And I'm working with the rocambole variety first, so I can keep my variety separate, because I am going to plant quite a bit of this garlic back in the garden in the fall. So I want to know what variety is what. So that's one beautiful head of garlic. Then I'm going to put it in my basket and keep going. So I am not sure if this is going to be a year's worth of garlic for me. I'm pretty sure it is. I am going to save quite a bit of it to plant next year. I'm so happy with the 2 hardneck varieties. The rocambole is incredibly amazing because the garlic cloves are so big, and the Great North as well. Now, one thing about the rocambole is that it does not have a super strong garlic flavor. It's a pretty mild garlic flavor. The Great North has a stronger garlic flavor. And so I am going to be ordering some more garlic to plant some different varieties so that I can have some garlic with maybe a little bit stronger of a garlic flavor. But I've been so happy with what I grew this year when it comes to garlic. What my plan is just to get these cleaned up, have them dry out, and I'm going to keep them fresh for a while, probably in about 2 months or 3 months, when kind of the craziness of the garden season is done and we're done through tomato season and all of that. I will revisit this garlic. So I'll just be using this fresh up until that point. And then what I'll probably end up doing is taking an afternoon and peeling a lot of garlic, and I'll probably will freeze dry some and powder it and turn it into garlic powder, and then I will also blend a bunch of it up and make those little garlic pucks that I like to make, and do that with a bunch of it, and then save a bunch of it to plant. But I probably am going to go ahead and order some more garlic varieties just to play around with it, because it's always fun to try different varieties, and I really want to try to find a soft neck variety that has larger garlic cloves. And typically garlic that is a soft neck variety has smaller cloves and more of them per head than hard neck varieties. That's just kind of one of their traits, is they tend to have smaller cloves than hard neck varieties. Now look at this bread. Look how beautiful it is. I definitely think my yeast was not that good, and that's why my bread has not been rising as well as this bread rose right here. So I am taking its temperature just to make sure that it is fully cooked. And if you want to know if your bread's fully cooked, you want it at least 200 degrees. And so it wasn't quite at that temperature. So I did end up putting it back in the oven for about another 3 or 4 minutes. We got it to 200 degrees and then I pulled it out. So this is what I have cleaned up so far. I ended up pulling up a chair and I just got back at it. What I ended up doing to be a little bit more efficient is I cut all of the tops off, and then I sat down and I cut the roots off and cleaned the papers up, and that seemed to be a little bit more efficient doing it this way. If you are wanting to grow garlic, this is the perfect time to start looking into seed companies that sell garlic. A lot of them are taking pre-orders right now. I will link a couple companies that I order seed through down below if you're interested. You can also call local farmers in your area or go to your farmer's market. That's where I found the rocambole variety. I was at the farmer's market. It's a farm that I'd actually volunteered at quite a few times many years ago before I had my own garden, and I just bought a bunch of their garlic because it looked beautiful, and I planted it and it did fantastic. Some of that garlic was from a friend that I grew this year, the Great North, and that did fantastic. The one thing about buying garlic that isn't certified seed garlic is that it has the risk of carrying disease that you could introduce into your soil. So if that's, a risk that you're comfortable with, then you could even go to your grocery store and buy garlic and plant it. The thing about seed garlic is it's usually certified not to have disease, and so that's a benefit of seed garlic. Now here, I had 2 family members asking for a peanut butter jelly sandwich with this bread, and so I went ahead and I made my family peanut butter and jelly sandwich with fresh bread, which there's not much that's better than that. Now, unfortunately, our peanuts died, because if our peanuts were still surviving, it'd be pretty cool to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with homemade peanut butter and homemade jam. But that is a goal we will have to strive for 2025's garden. And we'll see if we can do that together. Here we have it all cleaned up. So this is my rocambole basket. This is my Great North. And then this is the elephant garlic that I'm actually going to plant. I'm not going to eat any of this, and we will hopefully get a better elephant garlic harvest next year. I have this mess to clean up, which I'm going to clean up in just a second. And then for the soft neck garlic varieties, I cleaned them up, but they still have quite a bit of moisture in the stem. And I was thinking, it's probably going to be better to let these dry for another week or so before I braid them, because if I braid them and the stems have a lot of moisture in it, that could cause it not to dry out properly, and then it could cause mold, which I don't want. So those are just going to sit there for another week or so. These stems have a little bit of moisture left in them, but they will go ahead and just dry cleaned up like this. I'm not worried about this at all. I really wanted to get to braiding that garlic today, but I do think it's better that I hold off and let it dry properly. I just found one more head of garlic there. I want to clean my mess up so I'm not having to deal with this later. And then I've got a couple other things I want to do in the garden to get it cleaned up. Some maintenance things. Since I have my wheelbarrow out, and I'm going to need to bring this to the compost. Let's see, where'd my broom go? So one thing I want to get planted a little bit more of in this bed, this is my pepper bed. I had nasturtiums planted along this front side, and I went ahead and took those out because they were getting too big. And I think I have space now to put some lettuce seed. So I'm just going to take this random pack of romaine lettuce that I found in all my seeds, and I'm going to make a trench along this edge. I like to harvest my lettuce when it's little, and so by planting it along the edge of garden beds, that's always worked really well for me. So we're gonna go ahead and get some in here. I do have some lettuce in this bed already, but I need more. And then this is a soaker that I have right here, this little black hose, and I'm going to put that right on top of these seeds so that it stays nice and hydrated, and hopefully we've got some good germination. It feels crazy to me that we are already at the point where we have just turned over a bed from one crop to another crop. I feel like garden season just started, and here we are planting things to harvest early fall. That's crazy. So now that I've got this bed really saturated, I'm gonna get the lettuce watered in. This is the next big project I need to tackle, which is perfect because I have my wheelbarrow out and I need to, some of these look good, but what's happened is a lot of these Snapdragons, we had a week and a half or 2 weeks almost of 90+ degree weather. Snapdragons are a cool, loving crop, and so a lot of them have started to go to seed. You can see that we're just getting a lot of overgrowth here. These little pods here mean these are about to go to seed. Now these are brand new that haven't bloomed yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and selectively cut back a lot of these Snapdragons. My tomatoes are behind them and they could use for a little bit more breathing room. I don't wanna cut them completely back like I did over here. This bed, the variety must have just been a different variety that was completely done. You can see here, I cut all these Snapdragons back, except for these ones, because these ones just started blooming. I cut them back about 3 days ago, and I can already see lots of new growth in here. So I'm hoping that in another like 4 weeks or so, we're gonna have little Snapdragons in the front here, but it's gonna give these tomato plants and tomatillo plants a lot more breathing room. So I don't want to be quite so drastic over here, but this area needs a nice, good pruning. So what I'm going to do is just take all of the stems that have gone to seed, and I'm going to cut them back down at the base. This is going to encourage the plant to keep growing. I've already done this one other time. Here is what it's looking like. The tomatoes definitely have more room to breathe, and I think that's going to be better. I did leave some of these Snapdragons on here, and I'll come out probably this afternoon. This one's about to go, so I should take this one off. And I'll probably harvest a bouquet, but I've got projects I need to do inside before I have time to do that. I can see this one needs to go. I probably just should have cut them all back, because I'm seeing now that a lot of them are going to seed, so they just need to go over here. Now, I am new to Snapdragons. Snapdragons are a cold loving crop. And so what I'm hoping is that they're gonna pop back up and we're gonna get some more growth, not quite so tall as last time, maybe a little bit shorter. And we'll just see. This is my first year growing whole beds worth of Snapdragons. I have lots of other flowers that are in bloom now. My dahlias are going bananas. My zinnias are going crazy. So even though I'm not gonna be harvesting a ton of Snapdragons, I do have that butterfly mix over there. And I do have a bunch of Snapdragons that are just starting to bloom in my landscape. This is kind of done for probably the next month or so. But you can see where I cut, right in between here, we're gonna get more growth and more stems are gonna pop up. So we'll see what happens. So I was going to cut all this cilantro back and clean up this bed just so that it looked a little nicer, but I can't do that because I see about 10 honeybees on these white cilantro flowers. So this is just gonna be here, these little white flowers to feed the honeybees and any other pollinators. And it smells really good too. There's another little honeybee right there and right there. And I can hear more of them. There's a ladybug in here on this sunflower. So we're just gonna leave it, and this is just gonna be kind of a flowery bed of all sorts of different fun flowers. So what a productive day. I need to go inside and kind of get cleaned up because I got more projects I need to do inside. But I am so thrilled with what we got done out here. We got the garlic cleaned up. We got an entire bed planted out. We cleaned up the Snapdragon beds, and it's just gonna be exciting to see what this bed does and now what the tomatoes are gonna do. And I'm curious to see how the Snapdragons are gonna bounce back after I completely mowed them down. But now you can see that the tomatoes in the back have a lot more area to breathe. And one thing I did over the weekend is I did come through and I've pruned each one of these plants at least once. It's crazy how quickly these Roma tomato plants in particular are putting on growth. And I'm not pruning any suckers, I'm just pruning the excess leaves so that these plants can breathe a little bit better. So friend, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me as we spent time out here in the garden. It's my favorite place to be, and I'm grateful that you enjoy hanging out with me in the garden. If you enjoyed this video, I'll pop a couple of my other videos here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.